Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome into 104.3 The Fans Coffee Break. We've got D-Mac, who's out at Broncos getting ready for media later this afternoon. Jake Shapiro hanging out with us because he has a crazy idea we're going to talk about later today on the show. We see Paul Alessandro in the comments already. Good morning to everybody. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I didn't expect the clips that we posted yesterday to blow up as much as they did, and I guess maybe I should have because, D-Mac, whenever you have I don't want to say like a crazy thought because it's not
a good idea. Okay.
It just explodes. So I know you've been in the Twitter comments like all morning. What's been your favorite response so far to you saying move on from Russ?
The people that are the most frustrated are the people the least willing to do something different. Mm-hmm. And it just boggles my mind that I think people are scared. For the most part, I think change scares people and they just want hope and luck to be a strategy. Also, I really don't think people have spent enough detailed time really looking at Russ. I do advise you to go look at some of these people out there that do these breakdown videos. It's illuminating. They're far smarter than I am about it. But when you watch what's going on and then you think what it would take for Russ to be successful to win a championship, I think what we're kind of in a delusional state where we think winning 8 or 9 games is like a success. You need to win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. And as soon as you recognize that's not going to happen because of Russell Wilson, you need to move on as soon as possible because any delay in that is just going to delay everything. All we've been doing around here as I sit in my car outside of Dove Valley, because it is a little chilly, is delaying the inevitable. And the inevitable is starting over with a highly selected quarterback. So I guess it doesn't surprise me, Rachel, because the reaction to my opinion is based on fear and people in general fear change.
Yeah, we actually, David in the comments just go, change occurs when the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change. We're getting a little
there you go.
Inspirational here on Coffee Break this morning. Jake, are you team peace out Russ or are you more give him another year?
Well, I got to say, first off, D-Mac with the water bottle from Ball Arena last night.
I stole one.
Yeah.
I'm purposely not talking about it because, oh, you guys.
I did it stay in your car overnight? Was it frozen?
All right, a little personal thing. So I go to a lot of As and Nugs games. I always take one for the road and I just stick it in my car. So I constantly have listen, they give these away for free. Okay. I mean, constantly there's an endless supply of these and it's recyclable. So you caught me because I'm in my car, but if you're riding in my car, you will find one of these bottles perpetually in my driver's seat cup holder.
So you're not alone. I used to do that too.
Get up the next morning. I get up the next morning and D-Mac, I have the wall.
Is Jake frozen?
For the first time, it's not D-Mac with
it's not me.
I know, but maybe he's back now.
I'm good. Are
you going to have internet issues?
I guess I am. My LAN cable is like halfway connected, halfway not. But my point was, D-Mac, sometimes I end up with a frozen water bottle the next time I check it. Rachel, what was your question? I am so sorry.
To be honest, I don't remember my question, but we're going to just make this a party on a Thursday because James Merla is also here.
Right on.
He's going to join. And we know James always comes in with the hot takes, and he's the one who said Russell Wilson is the least of the Broncos' problems. Good morning, James. But a lot of people are saying, I put out a poll this morning, James, and I said, do you give Russell Wilson more than 1 year or another year? Or do you tank in hopes of getting the number 1 pick in the 2024 draft, like D-Mac says? And a lot of people are actually saying they're connected, that if you keep Russell Wilson, there's a chance that you could end up in last place of the NFL.
Well, yeah, if Russell Wilson is the problem, I don't think he is, but if he is the problem, then your best way to tank is just keep him. Let him play. I mean, next year his new deal hasn't even kicked in yet, so he's not a huge number, relatively speaking, against the cap next year. So, yeah, if he's the problem, keep him around, let him be terrible again, and then you're essentially tanking. So, I do not believe he's the problem. I don't. I think there's a greater chance that you can fix Russell Wilson than any rookie you draft is going to be the answer. So, I guess we're fixing to find out. If you really want to tank, keep them all. Keep George, keep Hackett, keep Russ, just run it back and do this all again. That ain't going to happen. But according to Adam Schefter this morning, at least two of those three things is going to happen.
Yeah, like a lot of failed things, a lot of tepid, scared organizations throughout the history of sports, a lot of mediocre management. The Broncos are going down that path, according to Adam Schefter. They're going to keep George Paton. They'll keep Russ. And the scapegoat this year will be Nathaniel Hackett and his assortment of huggable coaches. Then the scapegoat next year, when they finish with 7, 8, 9 wins, will be Russell Wilson. That'll be the scapegoat next year. The problem is you likely are going to get a little bit better. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. You may not have a winning record. You might not make the playoffs. But yeah, you probably will be better. And because of that, you will be nowhere close to getting Caleb Williams. And you probably will be stuck with Russ another year. So you see what I'm saying here, guys? Once you don't make a decisive move, if you're convinced about the inevitable, you're just, you're going further and further down the line. And you're getting closer to where the Buffalo Bills were with missing the playoffs 17 straight years in a row.
Yeah, but tanking is easier said than done. Like, how bad will you have to be next year to be worse than Houston? Like,
you'd have to be like a 0-2 win team.
Yeah, you'd have to go winless. Like, it's hard to get 53 guys to just go along with, hey, we're not trying to win.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why you do what the Bears are basically doing this year. You give away your assets for draft picks. You don't offer anybody a new contract. You go as low as you can on the salary cap. You get rid of Russ, and you make it obvious to everybody what's going on. And you play quarterbacks and people that inevitably will lose games. It's a tough deal. It's not easy to be a player or a fan or a coach of like the Texans right now. But what they're doing is the right thing. And inevitably, they'll have a shot at whoever they think is their best quarterback. It is painful. It sucks. I never wanted to be here in the first place, but sadly, here we are because you couldn't figure out how to draft a quarterback in 2018 and 2021.
Yeah, I just, the Texans didn't have a choice. The Deshaun Watson thing is
the Broncos don't have a choice, James. You've got the worst offense ever.
Yeah, but you can blame that on Hackett. Like I'm trying to figure out how does Peyton save his job. Here's how he saves his job, guys. He goes in and tells Penner, listen, we had a verbal deal. We were supposed to get Aaron Rodgers. We hired Nathaniel Hackett because Aaron Rodgers was coming here. Once that fell through, we had a coach that didn't match with our personnel. So let's go get a coach that matches with Russ and everything will be fine. That's his spin. That's how he's going to sell this thing. And if you're Greg Penner and you've owned this team for less than a year, you're probably going to buy it knowing that, well, if he's wrong, we can fire him later. That's the only thing that makes sense to me is Hackett was brought in just for Rodgers. And once that fell apart, it was square peg, round hole. And that's the nonsense that George Paton.
Yeah, and this is why Broncos fans have to suffer because talk about clueless. How about Nathaniel Hackett saying, well, we just got here in terms of the 13 straight losses to the Chiefs. Like, we just got here. And sadly, that is exactly probably, James, what will happen with Greg Penner. Him, Carey, Melody, Condi, Louis, all of them will just say, well, we just got here. So it's not painful for us. So what's 4 or 5 years to them? But we're throwing that log on the bonfire of misery that real Bronco fans have been dealing with for the past 7 years.
And we have real Bronco fans in the comments. Jake, I'll give you just a second, that are definitely complaining and agreeing with both sides, both D-Mac and James. Go ahead, Jake.
You just have to be worse than you don't have to be worse than the Texans because the Texans are likely going to draft a quarterback this year. They will, however, hold the control over that pick, which gets a little bit choppy. So that is something to consider. Meanwhile, James, I think you're right in saying if you keep all these guys around, the tank can still be on. However, I would argue the Broncos have not only been bad, but they've been unlucky. Like they should have won some of the games that they've lost. They've lost some bounces here and there. Like I do agree with the fans that say, hey, our record is a little bit worse in terms of indicative of where we actually are as a team. Like the fumbles on the goal line were ridiculous. Some of the fourth quarter stuff has been ridiculous. Like it's just, they should probably have 5 wins right now. And what DMAC is saying is, well, 5 wins takes you out of those franchise quarterback rankings. So yeah, I'm with you, DMAC, in terms of they need to tear it all down to the studs if they're going to rebuild and go after Caleb Williams. But I'm also with you, James, in saying if they run it back, they could be in the exact same situation. So you might as well try. I don't actually know which one is the right answer. I don't know if there's a wrong answer because right now it's a world of suck.
Well, there is, Jake, there is a wrong answer because not only do you need to move on from Russ for a quarterback reason, you need to move on for a culture reason. And the culture right here with this team is walking on eggshells around Russ. And I don't know why that would change. So listen, George Payton's going to try to save his own bacon. I get it. Hackett's going to, hit the skids. And they'll probably try to hire a coach that will emasculate George Payton because that's what he was most comfortable with, being assistant. So they'll go after Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh. And that is the right move. I mean, you should go after one of those guys. And then you probably eke out 7 or 8 wins. You probably will next year. And, dilly-dilly.
Here's an idea. How about hire someone who's actually won something in their career? What has George Payton ever won? They never won squat in Minnesota. What has Nathaniel Hackett ever won? Nothing. Nathaniel Hackett yesterday, again, refusing to lean into the rivalry with the Chiefs. He at least called him a rival, but he wouldn't do it with the Raiders. He wouldn't do it with the Chiefs. He's a guy who comes from a background of his dad bounced around and you're making friends and everybody, it's just another team on your schedule. They don't have a competitive bone in their body and they haven't won blank. Neither one of them have won anything. So go get me a guy that'll come in here who's won something, has a track record for winning something, and has a competitive ounce in him. It drives me nuts. But there is one way this Russell Wilson situation could get worse that I don't think anybody's talking about. You cut him. You pay him $150 million to play this year. You eat all of that dead cap the next 2 years. He goes somewhere else, and you realize it was a Nathaniel Hackett problem. That would be worse.
Yeah, what?
That would be worse. He goes somewhere else, and he throws 35 touchdowns and 6 picks, and he's an MVP candidate next year, and he lifts the Panthers to an 11-6 record. You think this year's been a kick in the nads? That would really be one.
My only question or response back to that is, what team right now is going to look at Russell Wilson and say, "We want you to be our quarterback"?
Baker Mayfield's on the Rams, like someone for a minimum contract. I mean, anyone should give him a shot.
Sean McVay wouldn't think he could fix Russell Wilson. Of course he would.
Yeah. You have to take on his contract, guys. Rachel, the answer to your question is nobody.
Not if he gets cut and he clears waivers.
Right.
Then you're not taking on his contract. The Broncos eat all that. The Broncos eat the guaranteed money, and then it's sign a new deal. Nobody's taking him on for this number.
So wait, your reason for keeping Russ is fear of him succeeding somewhere else?
I'm just saying, until you know it's a Russ problem and not a Hackett problem, you're risking this thing being even worse. You traded away 7 assets. You paid $150 million. You got 1 bad season. He goes somewhere else and you realize, oh, crap. It was the fact that Hackett and Outen had no idea what they were doing. Like, that is a possibility, right? Now, we can disagree. D-Mac, you don't think it. You think Russ is the problem. I don't. But you got to admit, there is the possibility that he goes somewhere else and succeeds. That would be.
I'm getting exhausted for having these silly conversations. I feel like I'm in some sort of bizarre time warp back to 2018 with, people trying to justify, like, I wanted Josh Rosen more than Josh Allen, and you're a dumb guy, and you're this, and you don't get this, that, the other thing. I'm exhausted from this. I seriously am. Listen, you're going to get your way. They haven't followed my advice 1 second for the past 7 years. How's that going? But there's not one thing the only thing that I put out there and asked Gary Kubiak about was at 4-0 with Peyton Manning playing terrible. I asked Gary Kubiak about some strategic rest for Peyton Manning to get to the playoffs. And you would have thought I ran over Gary Kubiak's dog. But that's exactly what worked for the Broncos. Now, it wasn't their plan, but they got it because Peyton did get injured and then he, rested, which was the right thing to do for the playoffs. So the last big idea that I was laughed at by Gary Kubiak worked. Other than that, they haven't stumbled upon any of my ideas in the past 7 years. So have fun. I don't even know what else to say. I know Russell Wilson is in a decline, not a dip. I know you can't win a championship with them. I think the deal sucks at this point, and you got to move on. This morning, Tom House was on with Adam Schefter on a podcast saying that Caleb Williams is the next Patrick Mahomes. Who's Tom House? He's the quarterback guru to the stars. And if you don't know who he is, he knows his shizzle. So when he's talking that much about Caleb Williams, I'm listening. And the only way to get Caleb Williams, a generational player, is to tank out. The only way to tank out is to kick Russ to the skids and start over. That's it. You don't want to do it. You want to hem and haw, James. Okay, Jake, you want to ride on the fence. D-Mac, you're right. James, you're right. No, I'm right or James is right. It's not like we're both right. It's two divergent opinions between two guys who like each other, but are wildly different, Jake. You can't hem and haw. Rachel, you got to chime in at some point. But we're not offering another. I'm right or James is right on this. That's it. There's no halfway here.
Wait. I've already said that I'm with James. I think you got to give Russell Wilson more than 1 year. You got to see if it's just the coaching staff. So D-Mac, don't come at me right there. But okay, here's
so you're wrong too. What about you, Jake?
You give Russell Wilson another year, but you rip
All
it
right,
along.
so you're wrong.
You
So
tear
guess
down
what?
around him.
I'm here by myself once again. What an unusual place for me to be after all these years. Dilly, y'all. Dilly.
Dilly. But here's one thing we can all agree on. We want our head coach to be angry about a rivalry game that we're going to play on Sunday. We want Nathaniel Hackett or the next head coach of the Denver Broncos to say, no, we want to beat the Chiefs. And Nathaniel Hackett could do that. Roll the clip, Jake.
How much motivation is there? I know when you came in, you want to play well in the division. That's your easiest path to have success in this league. To get on the board in the AFC West and to do it against the Chiefs, a team that this team hasn't beaten in basically 6 years.
I mean, that's the past. For us, it's the now. It's a West opponent. It's a great rivalry that's been going on for years. Very excited to be part of it. And it's one of those things, we have to show that we can win to make it a better rivalry. I mean, that's the starting point. And regardless of what your record is, it is a important game, and it's a West game. So we'll take it that way. We've been in a lot of games, and we got to continually battle. It's going to be a great test for both sides of the ball, all three.
Such a lame response. But it kind of made me start to think, and I actually saw a comment yesterday from somebody talking about, we have all this Josh McDaniels hatred. Is when Hackett leaves, are we going to see that same kind of hatred? Because he doesn't have that fire. I know he's a nice guy, but he doesn't have that firepower, and I think people are over it at this point.
People will forget he ever coached here. They won't care one way or the other. He'll be the most forgettable coach of all time. He'll be up there with Eric Studesville running the Broncos for a short period of time.
He'll be like a punchline. When they bring in Sean Payton and he fixes Russ, it'll be like, remember Hackett? He couldn't make it work with this guy. That's what
James is right. It'll be like 3 years from now, Hackett's an assistant on some sort of staff, and we'll all be like, oh my God, oh, there's that guy. Remember him? It'll be along those lines. It won't be hatred.
Every time he's at the podium, he sounds like a guy who's trying not to step on toes of his future employer.
Yeah.
He knows he's going to be in the job market, right? So if, I don't know, Eric Bieniemy leaves the Chiefs, maybe he's the OC under Andy Reid in Kansas City. Like, that's just what he sounds like. But again, you look at VJ, never won anything. Vic Fangio, he's been in football for 8 decades and has never won squat. And Nathaniel Hackett. So, you'll have Mike Evans say, oh, you got to get a coach with coaching experience. No, you don't. Just go get a coach who's won something, right? Just go get somebody who's been a part of a winning staff as opposed to just a guy who's bounced around and, coached for Doug Marrone and got fired in Jacksonville. We all should have seen this coming. We really should have.
I think like you said earlier, it's all because of Aaron Rodgers. This entire thing is happening because of Aaron Rodgers. They couldn't get Aaron Rodgers, and so Russell Wilson was the next best option.
Well, it's because George Payton couldn't pull the trigger on Justin Fields and took a wildly risky approach. I mean, an otherworldly approach to value cornerback over quarterback. I mean, he was Thelma and Louise off the cliff trying to tell everybody a cornerback is just as valuable as a quarterback while you don't have a quarterback. So that's where it springs from, and that's why he should be gone. But he will he will hide that all of that. James is right. He is selling Greg Penner on this year and Russ, and he will ignore what he did 2 years ago. He will, because that's the question Greg Penner should ask. By the way, Greg, if you're listening, why did you choose a cornerback over a quarterback in 2021? I guarantee you Penner will never ask that question, but it is the question to ask. And it'll tell you everything you need to know about George Paton.
Can I ask you something personal?
Yeah.
When you get in a fight with your wife, do you bring up the past a lot?
First of all, I don't really fight with my wife, but well, I mean, you're talking about the past? Well,
yeah, I'm just curious. Like, do you continue?
Rachel, I don't care about the past. The past doesn't mean anything. I learned that from Nathaniel Hackett. I just operate in the present. And this morning, when my lovely wife went off to her job, she told me she loved me, and I'll just take it from there.
Well, you know what, though? D-Mac, you keep bringing it up, but I get your point, because, like, it was the first domino that fell that got us to where we are right now, right? Like, think about how different the situation would have been if he'd have taken Justin Fields. And D-Mac, I remember coming on with you guys and saying, I can't believe I can do this interview because I just chucked my phone across the room. It was a terrible decision. And, you know, all of us who said, hey, taking Pat Surtain over Justin Fields is going to turn into Bradley Chubb over Josh Allen, we got, ridiculed for a year and a half. How's that looking now, right? Like, how many weeks in a row has Pat Surtain been toasted? 3? I mean,
James,
a pick all year.
Patrick Surtain is not even in the top 10 for cornerback voting for the stupid Pro Bowl. Never mind all pro or generational or all that silly crap. He's a good player. He's a good player, but he was the second corner taken. And Sauce Gardner right now looks to be a better corner in terms of a young corner than Patrick Surtain. I mean, he's fine. He's all right. I'm not trying to rip on the young man. It's just that the value of a cornerback is mitigated by the opportunity. And the opportunity at a quarterback happens on every single offensive snap. I mean, it's a joke. It always has been a joke. And that's what George Paton should be held accountable for. By the way, my wife would agree with all this stuff. She's a smart lady. We wouldn't be fighting about this.
I'm just saying. I know you're like, listen, I'm not married. Okay. I'm not married. I'm not engaged.
Rachel, I just shut up when it comes to disagreeing with my wife, just like every other guy. I'm no different. I just keep my mouth shut and I say, and I move forward.
There's a reason we like to argue so much in this kind of forum. We actually get a chance.
Exactly. And hey, let me tell you, it's worked for 34 years. Ups and downs, but essentially 34 years.
That's definitely going to be a clip that gets put out later today, talking about why we are able to argue so nicely here on Coffee Break. A lot of people, though, in the comments, you guys are totally agreeing. D-Mac, a lot of people are on your support. So while you may not have the 3 of our support, you do have a lot of support in the comments. So I do want to definitely talk about that. But you guys, it's just, if George Paton really is going to stay, which it sounds like it is according to Adam Schefter, like, what the hell is Greg Penner doing? Because really, I mean, he's the one where you look at the past couple of years and nothing is working out for this team. So don't you just really look at it and say, blow this entire freaking thing up?
Again, it goes back to what James just said. If you believe that Justin Allen and Nathaniel Hackett are just complete idiots and don't have any control of what they're doing, granted, I agree with D-Mac in saying George Paton has made mistake after mistake after mistake. But if you believe that Nathaniel Hackett is the true issue and that Russell Wilson is the actual solution, but you need some other coach, there is a chance this thing turns around. So I guess the Penners are betting on that small chance that this thing turns around just because you have a new head coach. But I don't think that's the right decision.
You remember out of the blue a few weeks ago when John Elway talked to a reporter in Minneapolis and said, we really loved Kevin O'Connell during the interview process. I was like, well, this is weird. What that was telling everybody, well, the best guy we interviewed who's 10-2, That's what we wanted to hire, but we went this other way because of Aaron Rodgers, and then that didn't happen. Like, he was laying the groundwork for, oh no, our 10-person a search committee that interviewed 10 people. We got it right. We knew Kevin O'Connell was going to be great. So you should let us do it again. We'll get it right this time. We won't have the Aaron Rodgers thing hanging out there. That always was a mystery to me. Is like, why is he having this comment in week 4 when they're not playing the Vikings? It seemed out of nowhere. Laying the groundwork, letting the Penners know we got it right. We just had to go this way for other reasons.
Is John Elway a liability?
Yes.
Was that? I didn't catch it.
I said, is John Elway a liability? Jake says yes. James says no.
Nah. I mean, he's lucky to have a parking space around here these days. I mean, I think his pass still works. John doesn't have any influence. He doesn't have any say. Nobody's listening to John. I understand
he was also right behind George Payton in all of the videos in the draft room.
Yeah, of course. I mean, listen, this is another thing. Like, the one guy who couldn't general manage his way out of a paper sack for 7 years is put in charge of the hiring committee for Payton. And that's a good decision? No, I mean, it's Greg Penner needs to really start from scratch. He really does. And this was predictable. It's predictable that a guy who couldn't do the job was in charge of hiring a guy who also can't do why did he get a say? Why was John Elway even involved? And that is because Joe Ellis, nice dude. I like Joe. But Joe just was, wishy-washy on so many things. I mean, they just couldn't, dial in on the things that meant. I think Joe loves the team, and I think he did the best he could. But boy, oh boy, has this team just been so soft throughout the years. And they've been reticent to make hard decisions, and we see what the results are. And now, you want to talk about soft. Nothing is softer than not saying there's a reason we need to stop a 13-game losing streak. The Raiders are our rival. We're wearing color-coded T-shirts on freaking field day. We're going soft in training camp. We're not practicing. We got to wait till December, when the season's over. Nobody is softer right now than the Denver Broncos. And they constantly walk on eggshells around Russell Wilson. Constantly. And it is a terrible environment. So, of course, all the players like him. Why wouldn't the players like him? He's their best friend. It's easy here, guys. I might as well bring a pillow out with me to practice to do these interviews. And you really don't get grilled by the media. They're in check as well. So what are we doing here, man? And if Greg Penner wants to do something, he needs to be tough. He needs to actually have a little fire to him. And I fear that he's just going to go down the soft path as well. And by the way, the way you control it, you ask how you control it, you use your money. You big budget bully your way to the top. That is the one sword they have, and that's the one thing they can do. Big budget bully. That's what they can do, and that's what they do need to do.
I have a hard time believing the people that own Walmart, who have ravaged the communities of America, are soft.
He's not. He doesn't own Walmart, dude. His father-in-law does. It's not him. He was put in charge.
He helps make very important decisions over there.
I don't think you heard what you said, Jake. Yes, we can all agree. We could go down the Walmart rabbit hole too. But while the Broncos aren't very good,
by the way, let me pause here for a second, Jake. You need rich people to own sports franchises. That's kind of a little snide comment right there, like bagging on rich people. Who do you think runs things around here? No, having a wealthy Walmart owner.
Dude, any person
there. I'm gonna stand up for a billionaire right now. We need billionaires to do things, and what Walmart does has actually nothing to do with the Broncos. Nothing. It's a separate business. That's where they got their money from. But I'm gonna take umbrage with you there, Jake. I'm not gonna let you get away with that one, because one thing has nothing to do with the other, and you're gonna throw out some claims like that without any facts or figures as if it's the truth. And I do have an issue with that. I hope you can do whatever you want, I guess. But I think that's an unfair shot. You gotta let I'm being hard on Greg Penner, but I'm not associating anything with Walmart with Greg Penner and the Broncos.
Well, one, that's all we have to go off of right now is his past track record with Walmart, because we haven't really seen him make decisions with the Broncos. Two, any person who is a billionaire in this country is inherently evil and has taken advantage of other people. You can't accumulate that much wealth without being some sort of evil. You can't. You've
Well,
taken
then,
advantage of other
hey,
people.
All right. We're going to end this conversation here because we're going down a different rabbit hole. Like I said, the Broncos, they're a bad team. We can all agree. We want to see some firepower from our head coach. The ownership we can talk about later. But we do have a very special guest here from the KC Sports Network. We've got BJ Kissel in here. So, James, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Jake, you as well. D-Mac, you're sticking around with us as we talk a little bit about the Chiefs. And I'm curious, actually, what the heck the Chiefs think about the Broncos this year. So give us just a quick second. Oh, there he is. BJ Kissel, good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. I think I came into a very interesting conversation. I was going to wave my white flag and be like, I don't know where you guys are going. I don't know all the ins and outs of the Broncos, but yeah, it seems like it's an interesting conversation thus far.
But you do know the Chiefs very well, obviously, and it's a tough time to be a Denver Bronco fan, as you can imagine. It's a tough time to work about and talk about them every single day, and when you do, it kind of overheats every once in a while. D-Mac is actually getting ready to go to Broncos media, but BJ, let's talk about the Chiefs because I'm curious, what are Chiefs fans thinking about the Broncos this year? Because it's not good. We've got that 13-game lose streak to them. So I'm curious if they're just assuming, this is an easy win.
Yeah, it's been an interesting conversation over the year because I think at least this week for what we're trying to do at KC Sports Network is get the conversation off of Russell Wilson, the trade, and just the low-hanging fruit of just as that friendly rival just making fun. Because when I started creating content about the Chiefs, it was in 2009. I understand where you guys are coming from. It's not easy to talk about a team that's not competitive. And it's not, at least you guys, the games are close. When I was covering teams for the Chiefs, they were getting blown out. You guys have a side of the ball that's played really well this year. So you have at least something to kind of hang your hat on with some young stars. So I get that, but Broncos fans weren't really feeling bad for the Chiefs back then. So it's kind of hard for us to have any kind of empathy for what you guys are going through right now. But yeah, I think if the conversation gets off of Russell Wilson and the offense and just, like I said, the low hanging fruit of how bad they've been struggling, I think what we've been trying to do, or what I've been talking about the last week, is for Chiefs fans, don't expect this to be necessarily like a get right game for the Chiefs offense. Chiefs fans have tendency now, because what we've seen from Patrick Mahomes in the offense, leading the league in scoring this year after losing Tyreek Hill. And that was a big thing that we kind of, wear this suit of armor around. Hey, we still have Patrick Mahomes. We still have Andy Reid. We're still pretty good. Is that the Broncos defense is good. And Chiefs fans will get really frustrated when they go out and throw up 35 points in a game. And this is not a scenario in which that's going to happen. I think Broncos only allowed more than 20 points 3 times this season, maybe 8-4 if you guys had scored 18 points a game offensively. And so trying to educate fans on this is not going to be a blowout. That's not how these games are going down. And at some point, and I know it's probably talked about ad nauseum with you guys, at some point, they're going to figure it out at some basic level offensively to get something done. You would think, and maybe that's just 10 years of watching Andy Reid. When they've struggled a little bit, they always seem to figure it out. But I think for Chiefs fans going into this game, it's always about how does the offense perform. And I think 25 points will do it in this game. I don't see a scenario in which the Chiefs are going to throw up 40 points. And when that doesn't happen, people think, what's going on with the offense? Why are they struggling so bad?
Yeah, Rachel, here's the deal with the Chiefs. And yes, you're going to win, and you're probably going to win by a lot. Okay, so I'm conceding that. The problem the Chiefs have to grip with is they're careless with the ball for whatever reason. And they do turn it over. Now, they make up for it because they have a lot of offense. But the Chiefs fans are actually pretty scared right now because they just saw, for whatever reason, the Cincinnati Bengals are the kryptonite to the Chiefs. Not sure why. So I don't think it's going to manifest itself in a loss in this game, but I do think that Chiefs fans, and correct me if I'm wrong, are just afraid you're going to shoot yourselves in the foot and you're going to ruin a great potential championship year by just doing something stupid because you've done a lot of dumb things over the year. You just got away with it, except against the Bengals. So, Rachel, here's the weird one. They don't care about the Broncos. We're a footnote to them, which sucks. But they have their own weird fears. So they care about how they win the game. Am I right?
I don't think you're wrong in that it's two factions of Chiefs fans. The Chiefs fans that have grown up and have this social media age over the last 5 to 6 years with Patrick Mahomes, who've really got into it. They don't fear anything. They're fine. I think it's the older fans like myself that we have the NFL record for the most consecutive playoff losses. Like, we have lived through some brutal times. And so we always expect the worst thing to happen in a lot of cases. And then the rest of us are just being like, you know what, let's just enjoy this. We've lost 3 games by a total of 9 points this season. We are not blowing people out. We are not this dominant force that a lot of Chiefs fans thought could happen, where you're just blowing out everybody by 14 points. That's not going to happen. The game against the Bengals, you changed 3 or 4 of those plays, which is probably the case you could say in any NFL game, that for competitive teams, that it's 5 to 8 plays that make all the difference in the world. We're talking about less than 10 plays this season. The Chiefs could be undefeated, and they could have lost 3 or 4 more games based on those handful of plays going the other direction. It's just how close the margin of error is. In this game on Sunday, I just feel like that margin of error is a lot bigger for the Chiefs. They can make mistakes in this game and still overcome it. The Broncos can stop them on 5 of the 10 drives, but if the Chiefs put up points on 5 of those 10 drives, are the Broncos going to be able to score enough to make up for that? And that's where I think a lot of Chiefs fans say no, but I don't think Chiefs fans are going to feel great after this game, because the Broncos their defense is pretty solid. So it's one of those survive, advance, nobody gets hurt, but I don't think at the end of this, we're going to feel great. But in fairness, I said that going into the game against the Bucs. I said that going into the game against the 49ers, because at the time the Chiefs offense had struggled in the week prior. It's like, this is not going to be a get right game for the offense. And then they went out and played really well. So who knows what team we're going to see.
BJ, why is it this year, though, that the offense isn't as explosive as many people thought?
I think it's the personnel changed. I mean, we went from a lot of young, like smaller, faster. I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill is a huge part of this, but McCole Hardman has been banged up. Kadarius Toney, who they just picked up, didn't play in the game last week. That's a huge part of Andy Reid's offense, with the jet sweeps, the ghost action, a lot of that stuff that he likes to do. And last week against the Bengals, they didn't have that skill set. And it's been fascinating to see what happened, because over the last 5 years, teams would not play man defense against the Chiefs because of Tyreek. They were scared to. And then going into this year, they were seeing more man defense than they'd ever seen before, which in some ways for like Travis Kelce, all the touchdowns and all the yards he was putting up was due in fact to teams playing them differently. Now they've had answers for it. The intermediate passing game with Juju Smith-Schuster across the middle, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, those are more bigger, more physical guys that are more better to beat zone coverage. And that's why they were brought in, because the Chiefs had faced so much zone. Well, then all of a sudden Tyreek's gone, they start facing all this man defense, and they're going up against teams like the Bills, who are one of the best zone defensive teams in the NFL. And then they play more man than they had played in years in that game against the Chiefs. And so it's been kind of a, chess match throughout the season of how our team's going to consistently play us and how do we beat that. But I think in general, I think what we're seeing, and I've been harping on this since I worked with the Chiefs, is that Patrick Mahomes never got enough credit for how smart he is in his mental acuity of playing the quarterback position. He has got an didactic memory. He can tell you when he lines up and sees a coverage, the last time that he had seen that coverage or that blitz on the snap, and it could be from 3 years prior in a week 2 game in the third quarter. He can call it out, and we've had him mic'd up and we've heard him do it. It was going to be something that more people were going to talk about this year, because they didn't have Tyreek. He was going to spread the ball around a lot more. And you look at the stats, everybody's getting a little piece of this, and he's doing a really good job of spreading the ball around. And as to what happened against the Bengals, I have no idea. That is just the team that has got it figured out. And Joe Burrow, when Joe Burrow gets hit one time in a game and he doesn't have any high leverage, they never put any stress on him on that game defensively. And so I don't think a lot of that was the offense. I think a lot of the one this past week was on the defense.
Oh, Joe Burrow. See, Joe Burrow to Patrick Mahomes is like Patrick Mahomes to Josh Allen, right? But every single time you're going to see one of those games, you're going to get a really, really good game.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. It's been a beautiful thing to watch, just as a football fan, for these new rivalries to kind of develop over the years. And the fact that we've got a quarterback who's right in the middle of it is a great thing. And yeah,
hey,
again,
then you should be
us
happy.
Older Chiefs fans, we've earned this. For all of us who suffered through all those playoff losses and all those other things, we feel like we've earned it. We try not to take it for granted as best we can.
Yeah, maybe Rich Gannon can come trotting out the tunnel and lead you to a playoff disappointment again. I remember the good old days.
Yeah, when he traded him, then he went to the Super Bowl with the Raiders. So that's not a great example for that one.
That's what some of us, this one, not so much this one, is worried about with Russell Wilson if he would go to a different team. Go ahead. Dan.
I'm not. No. Oh, no. I'm not worried about it at all. Good luck.
I
can't wait for him to go to another team. That's I'm not worried about that whatsoever. Listen, when the smartest thing the Chiefs ever did that changed their entire franchise was they did a very detailed breakdown about Patrick Mahomes. That it wasn't by chance. And once they established why they loved him, they did everything they could to get him. And they really did it the smartest way because they still were competitive with Alex Smith, but they didn't stray from their plan. It was brilliant how they managed that entire situation because they never really let their foot off the gas. They got a really good quarterback in Alex Smith. They mentored Patrick Mahomes for a year. They committed to him all out. Goodbye, Alex Smith. Second time around, he got caught up in that. And then they circled everything around Patrick Mahomes. And that is exactly how you do it. And they do get the benefit. So do the Bills of doing things the right way. And that's what they'll stick with that for 15 years. 15 years. And there's no doubt about it. And that is and Russell Wilson kind of surprised everybody, but he's run out of steam, guys. He's 12 years in or whatever it is. It's over. It's done. Patrick Mahomes has another decade. It's insane what we have to deal with here in Denver because of what they did right in Kansas City. And we would be smart to replicate it, not mock it.
The smartest thing that ever happened. There's going to be a Patrick Mahomes statue one day at Arrowhead Stadium, and there needs to be a footnote or like a mini statue. I don't know what it is, but something needs to praise Alex Smith for the way that he handled that. Because I saw it personally in the way that it's one thing when you're sitting in a meeting room or you're out on the field and somebody asks you a question. I was at training camp that first year when all the fans were coming up to watch Mahomes play because we had just drafted a first-round quarterback for the first time in 35 years. It had been like 32 years since we had drafted a quarterback who had won a game for us. Like, it was so bad. We finally got a young quarterback, and everybody shows up to see the backup, but Alex Smith is the guy. And I remember sitting in the cafeteria watching Alex, like Patrick Mahomes, and he talked about it on that podcast with the New Heights podcast with Travis Kelce. And it was fun for me to listen because I remember this of like Mahomes just like followed Alex around everywhere with a little notepad and would just take notes. And to Alex's credit, they'd be at camp and these guys, you guys know, like they're in meetings all day. Like it's like a 14-hour workday. And they finally get a little break for lunch. And Alex Smith was sitting, I remember walking by the table and all I heard Alex say was, there's so much you can do from a bunch formation inside the red zone. And this is why. And he started explaining it like in between eating, in between meals. It was like he went above and beyond for Patrick Mahomes in a way that I hope Chiefs fans never forget that Patrick Mahomes' development. Mike Kafka had a huge part to do with it. He was kind of his guy that rookie year to kind of make sure that he understood everything that was going on. But I hope Chiefs fans never forget what Alex Smith did because he had as much to do with how quickly Mahomes got to this point as any of the coaching staff or anybody else within the organization.
That's really cool. Has Alex Smith kind of, embraced, is he still going to games and such?
I've seen him at a couple of them with like the media things that he's done, but Alex Smith is one of those guys, if you're familiar with him at all, I think he graduated with like an econ degree in like 3 years. So like he's brilliant. So he's going to be successful with anything that he wants to do, whether it's just anything that he's done. A lot of philanthropic stuff with foster care. He'd done that out in California. I talked to him quite a bit about that stuff. I'm not exactly sure everything that he's up to, but whatever he's doing, he's going to be successful. It's just kind of the way that he's built.
Nice. Okay. Well, BJ, last question for you. Score prediction for Sunday.
Oh man. I think the last time I saw the line at DraftKings, it was like 9.5. So I think it's going to be right around there. It could be a 10-point, 7-point game, but it feels like it's a lot more at that point. The thing that scares me is I've seen Courtland Sutton up close, and I know you guys have, Chiefs fans haven't. He's just different just with his size, and Chiefs fans have watched so many games with like Mike Williams where he just throw up a ball down the field and he just high points it over somebody, and you have that fluke big play that can happen.
Yeah. Well, Sutton's hurt and hasn't practiced all week and is probably not going to play. So
okay, then I feel a little differently. So
yeah.
Well, okay. Thank you for that. All right, so now it's complete blowout. Now I have nothing to worry about. No, I do think the Chiefs are going to win. I think it's going to be a couple possessions. I don't think the Chiefs offensively are going to just light it up because I have a lot of respect for what the defense has done. Patrick Surtain Jr., one of the best young players in the NFL, probably didn't get enough credit outside of Denver. I'm sure you guys are praising what he has been doing, but I do think the Chiefs are going to win, probably something like 24-10, 24-13, something like that. I'd be surprised if the offense lit it up, but it would be a welcome sight right now, coming off that loss and getting that taste out of everybody's mouth right now.
See, here's what's the problem with the Chiefs. Not only do they kick our butts, they're actually nice people. Then this is what's awful. You know, it's like, worst. Can we just go back to the Raiders?
It's the worst.
Why do you say so nice?
I know, isn't he great? Actually, BJ, him and I first met. I called him right after he left the Chiefs team reporter gig, and I was like, "Hey, I just want to get on the phone with you because you built such a great community on that Twitter." And he sat and talked to me. I think BJ, we talked for like 30 minutes or so that day. Yeah. So I appreciate him. Yes, they're great people over there. It sucks that the Chiefs are good if you're a Bronco fan, but we're looking forward to the game come Sunday. BJ, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
All right, behind enemy lines. There we go. Oh, such a nice guy. BJ's incredible. But D-Mac, I know you got to go to media. You got, what, 3 minutes to get in there to hear Nathaniel have to talk about Lord knows what. So we'll let you go. Everybody else, thank you so much for hanging out with us here on Coffee Break. We're back again tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Bye.